Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys some gameplay on how to beat an AB3 Enigma with Kano. Everyone is saying how Kano is in a really bad spot because of Enigma coming out and Illusionist, and historically Kano's been pretty bad into Illusionist. I've been avoiding Enigma for a while, ever since she came out, and then finally I decided, you know what, let's practice the matchup. I'm gonna need to learn the matchup or play the matchup if I want to play Kano eventually at my, at the PTQs, at the PQs, all that type of stuff, as well as Nats coming up. If I want to go to that calling battle harden, anything like that, I want to play Kano. I'm probably gonna have to play against an Enigma player, so I might as well learn the matchup. And after essentially one game, I learned that the Enigma matchup actually isn't. If we're on AB 1 or 2, you just kind of beat them because they can't stop your stuff from killing their poppers, and they can't stop you from just dealing damage to them and chipping them down. So AB 1 and 2 isn't really that much of a problem, because you can just kind of clear their board forever and then just hit them and then they die. So that's pretty good news. But the biggest problem was AB3. So whenever there was an AB3 Enigma, I thought the matchup would be unwinnable, because AB3, as you guys know, stops essentially every spell we have, except for Aether Wildfire, which can deal 1 damage, Aether Spindle, which deals 1 damage, and Swell Tidings. Everything else deals 3 damage or less. So I was thinking, oh, it's probably impossible, but we'll play it out, we'll see how it goes, etc. And it turns out it's actually not that bad at all. Like, at all. So there's a specific play pattern you have to do to beat the Enigma with AB3, and there's a few fundamentals you have to do to beat them, and once you learn it and practice it, it's actually not that hard at all. So this is the full deck that I've been playing, by the way. It's probably the most standard version of the main board, and then for the sideboard, it has the pitch stacking options that come in, as well as so I'm playing 2 snapbacks. The big thing I did was I put in 2 scours. So how I fit that in is I just took out 2 other cards, one that was for the Illusionist matchups, and then one that was a snapback, and which again is pretty good into Illusions that you're going to bring in anyways. So I don't know the name of it, but it was the 6 damage popper that says I have Dominate. Whenever I hit, you draw an extra card at the end of your turn, basically. And I put in 2 scours to stop the haze bendings and any amount of spell shield or spectral shield, stuff like that for you. And the scours have been doing phenomenally, on top of sometimes they just randomly chip down and kill even more ward stuff, right? So if you like scour for 3, kill off 2 haze bendings and something else, and then if they don't have AB3, you're now killing whatever ward card that they have, feels really good. So that's helped a lot in the matchups. So what we're going to do here is I'm telling you the fundamentals. Basically, you want to try and keep their board clear. If you don't let them get to an explosive start where they just get multiple stuff on board, you're pretty happy. Because what's going to happen is, even if on turn 1 they play a bunch of ward, or they play like 1 or 2 ward, cards, probably only 1 usually, then what you can do is you can start Kanoing on turn 0, blasting at them. They're going to AB3 everything because they have a whole bunch of blues, and you might not deal anything, that's fine. Well, then you're going to go to your turn, and you're going to start, playing cards again. They're going to try and AB3 you, but here's how you're going to beat them, is they're not going to have enough resources to both AB3 on our turn, and then after we draw up, AB3 again on their turn, whenever we're trying to kill their stuff a second time. And it's this really cool back and forth of, okay, I'll let you set up this one turn, go to my turn, double kill, take your stuff up, because now I have 2 turns to try and take it down, because I have both my turn, then I'm going to redraw, and now I have your turn. And they will eventually run out of resources. So I'm going to VOD review a game of mine that I played on stream last night. It was actually the second ever AB3 game. The first one I played against them, they smoked me, and I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario is what I thought, where AB3 is impossible to win. And then game 2, I changed up the playstyle a little bit and basically started applying these fundamentals that I'm telling you about, of just try to keep the board clear, try and play on my turn and then on their turn. If they ever have extra cards, extra mana, extra anything, I'm just going to go back to my turn and try and, overpower them. And then, dealing the 1 chip damage, the 2 chip damage after they AB everything is phenomenal, and you'll eventually win the game because of it. So that's how we're going to play the AB3 matchup into Enigma. And I have a pretty good example for you guys. Of course, I don't play perfectly. For those of you I don't know, I've been playing for about 2 weeks. And I've only been playing for about a week and a half of that on Kano. So I'm not perfect by any means. But I still am having success with it and still doing a pretty okay job. So at the very worst, this is I'm giving you guys the idea and the fundamentals of how to do it, and then you can go and you can practice it and you can kind of master it yourself, and it'll work out very well for you. So if it's working out okay for me, it'll definitely work out for the players that have been playing this game for years. So that's it for the intro. I just wanted to go over kind of how to play the matchup and what the fundamentals were that you're looking at. Let's get into the game. Alrighty here. So we are against an AB3 Enigma. And so what our game plan is here against AB3 is kind of just to keep the board as low as possible and try and challenge all of their AB, right? So the idea behind AB3 and why it's kind of rough is they're just going to be able to pitch a blue and block anything we do. So how to get around that is try and use some really low damage arcane damage on your turn. And then while doing that, they're going to pitch an entire blue card to stop, like, a deal 1 damage card or deal 2 damage card. So then you can just go to their turn. Now they're -1 card, and then eventually something will poke through, and you'll be able to get the damage done and blow something up. So that's what I'm doing here. So it's turn 0 against my opponent. I have a whole bunch of blues, and I happen to have the snapback too. So I'm just going to keep the board really low. They're going to have a 0-card hand. Obviously, I'm going to go into my next turn with a full hand anyways because I am going second. So that feels not too bad. And yeah, that's the whole purpose of this. So we cleared everything. They have a spectral shield, and that's it. We're going to go to our turn, and we're just going to try and find a way to deal the most amount of damage. So here, we don't really have any blue cards to make this hand super playable. So we're just going to empty our hand as much as possible. We're going to ditch the wildfire because you don't particularly need that right now. And like I said, we're just going to get a card out of their hand. So this is how we're going to play this matchup here. We don't need to try and wand because they're just going to get another one. So now they have a 3-card hand. Here, I'm going to pause. So this is a VOD, by the way, for this. I think I already said this in the intro. But I don't talk a lot while I'm playing right now because I'm still learning. So I don't do a very good job articulating what I'm doing while I'm actually playing the game. So why we didn't just go ahead and, pitch Tome to Waning Moon. Our game plan here is to just clear the board of everything. Probably not block too many Phantasmals, or like block the Phantasmals if we have to. But most of the time, we're going to try and catch them on a turn where it's like they have to pitch 1 card on our turn to stop for the AB, pitch another card on their turn to play the Phantasmal, and then they only have 1 card on their hand to stop all of our AB, and then ideally 0 wards, right? So then we have a way to just kind of kill them on their turn. So Tome is really good in the sense of making sure we can gain life and stop anything that happens later on, which that'll come up pretty shortly here. So yeah, so we have this going on. We can say, okay, sounds good. You have your shimmers. We can't really do anything about that now. We can try and like Kano, but we have a blue here to Kano, but it's a Scour, which is a super key card in this matchup. So we're just going to go back to our turn. We're going to go ahead and just Scour them for 2, and we're just going to get rid of both of the units that they have in play there. Or, sorry, not units, but the characters. I'm going to get rid of both of my reds, even though those are big damage red cards. I really want blues in this matchup because we're going to be hitting that Kano button a whole lot and then hitting the Waning Moon button a whole lot. So unless it's on our turn with the blue, these big damage red cards aren't particularly interesting to me. So we're just going to be able to kill off both of their auras there. Be happy they did absolutely nothing, so we're going to go to the next turn here. And this is where I'm talking about, where we're going to block the actual like combat damage that comes in as much as seems reasonable. So like here we can block with the Blazing Aether. I love blocking with Blazing Aethers in matchups where you're not stacking. And so here, again, they had to dump their whole hand. So pretend we're in a spot here where we actually had lethal. This is exactly what I was talking about, where we got 1 card out of their hand. They're eventually going to play a Phantasmal card, and then, we're going to be A-okay. So we're going to let this go through. It's going to hit us for 9. And you could consider blocking, or what you could have done is like maybe I first to see what's coming up. But I'm just going to take all 9 of this because I know I'm about to gain 5 life back from this Tome in my arsenal, right? And we can start blasting. So we take that 9. We immediately Tome out of arsenal, gain back 5 life. So really we were only hit for 4. And then now we can just start blasting at them, right? So we can start blasting. We have our eye. We're going to start trying to hit them in the head. Probably put this Blazing Aether on bottom. Voltaic Bolt on the top here. And then, yeah, we're just going to try and get cards out of their hand, which is the entire purpose of our turn. and this is how you chip damage away against the Enigma players, is you chip damage away by doing damage on your turn or getting cards out of their hand on your turn. And then that way they go to their turn, they can't do anything, and then you at least push, you know, a good 4, 5, 6 damage on their turn. And that's kind of the play pattern that you're going to repeat over and over and over again. So you see here, we got one card in their hand. We're going to go ahead and Sonic Boom. Here, we're going to get another blue card out of their hand. And that's fine, because now we're just going to go ahead and arsenal this tome. Again, we don't need to just like throw a 2 damage Waning Moon at them for no reason. We're going to arsenal this tome, which can get us some life back. They're going to Haze Bending Pass. They have one card in their hand. So because they have one card, I don't want to give them free value. So we're just going to go back to our turn. They didn't threaten anything, so we might as well just keep doing what we were doing, right? So we'll do this. We'll go ahead and Kano. We're going to go, oh, Swell Tidings, big damage card on top. We'll do that, see if we can get a card out of their hand, which we should. Because that's why you play AB3, to try and not take damage. And then here, you can Kano again, just to see like what we have on top. A Wildfire. Do we want to get rid of that? Not really. We can just kind of do that next turn. Let's say they do some stupid something, like again in a Phantasmal, right? But they have reds in their hand, so that's okay. We are going to empty our hand a little bit more, because you might as well pressure them a little bit. If they AB2 that, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. We don't need to just waste a card. And yeah, boom, the life totals are almost even. So here they have the Waning Vengeance. They did pitch a blue, so they will be getting the Spectral Shield. So what we're going to do here is just, again, we put them on a spot where they have a 1-card hand. We're going to be able to start hitting them for a little bit. So we have good old Aether Wildfire. And then here, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to Waning Moon first. Because while the Blazing Aether, or sorry, while the Wildfire is on the stack here, let me go forward a little bit here. While the Wildfire is on the stack, if you Waning Moon, the Waning Moon is actually what's threatening the ward card here. So they have to send their AB3, so they have to have at least a yellow card in their hand to completely stop the Waning Moon. And then your Wildfire gets stopped either way by the Vengeance, right? If they don't have a yellow, so they have the blue there, which is perfectly fine, you know, is what it is. There's a chance we could have, like, a random world where your Wildfire actually hits and you're able to deal damage to them. Here, we know they only have 1 mana, so we AB1. They can only AB1, so we can clear both of their shields, and we're fairly happy. So we're going to go back to our turn here. We can't really do much. We are going to keep this Wildfire in our hand, because there is a random chance that we can just kill them from 34, right, if they have to tap out or something. And spending the Wildfire to just get rid of, or to just deal 3 damage doesn't seem particularly crazy. So we'll just pass and see what happens here, right? So let's see what it is they do. And this is probably a turn where we're going to like block something, Kano something, Enchanting Melody. Enchanting Melody is a really funny card. This is the first time I ever saw it. And then so you see this, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to go ahead and see if we can pop this enchanting card. So we got our tome. That's pretty good. We're just going to draw some cards here. Let's see what's up. Oh, we drew our scour, so we know what we're doing next turn, so we might as well just get rid of everything, because we know we're going to be scouring. So what we could do here is you can Waning Moon to get rid of the ward off of the Enchanting Melody. Just so that way there's a chance we can actually hit with our lessons. But this, all in all, this is okay, right? So we're going to go to our turn. We should Waning Moon them, but we don't want to let them discard a card. So that's another shot here where you're like, oh, like, why didn't he Waning Moon? Because my opponent has 1 card in hand and a resource already. If this card is not good for them, like if it's just some random bad card, Waning Moon here doesn't really do anything. Because what are the odds that this is also not at least a yellow? Pretty low. For 1 mana, they should be able to cast most anything that they want to. So if this is just some random bad card, they could pitch it AB3. This isn't going to do any damage anyways. And not only is it going to do no damage, but we just let them filter a bad card out of their hand for no reason. So I'm down to like potentially miss 1 damage or 2 damage or something to make sure that they just have like a worse hand, especially knowing that our next turn is fairly good. So we're going to scour here, and we can scour for 2. So what that means is we're just going to go ahead and Wildfire and Tunic and hit them for a Scour for 2 on Haze Bending. Hitting a double Haze Bending with a Scour is really, really, really good. I think the best Scour I've ever had was 2 Haze Bendings and the 0 mana aura that says when you attack with your first Spectral, give it a +1 counter. So this is definitely like the second best Scour I've ever had. This is the first good Scour I've ever had where you hit double Haze Bending and it feels like, oh my god, this is so amazing. This card's great. So we're hit for 2. Discard our red card, even though it is a wildfire. They're still pretty healthy, you know, they have a decent amount of cards, and we just want this blue so that we can keep continuing to Kano and stuff on their turn. So Scour is really cool. The way it works also is, I didn't know this, but you can actually choose like how things die. So even here, I'm still just going to pick the double Haze Bending, I think. I'm not too sure. I could also shoot that if I want to. But I'm fairly certain just getting rid of the double Haze Bending is really important. Just that way they don't have forever tokens. And then we can eventually get rid of the Phantasmal Tide thing. So right here I'm considering whether or not I need to Waning Moon. Waning Moon isn't bad. Because it at the very least forces a card out of their hand, right? So then they go into their next turn with a 2-card hand. Plus it was double red, so that's like perfect because now we're just like super happy. So the issue with Tide is that it gets a bunch of +1 counters, and then I think the card in their arsenal is going to be the Ward 10. And for those of you that don't know, the Ward 10 card, it costs, I think, like 4 mana. It costs like a decent amount of mana with Ward 10, but you could remove 3 counters, or it's like if you have 3 counters, you can just play it for free, so you don't even have to pay the actual cost of it. So they got their 2 Spectral Shields. They still have a Haze Bending, but it's okay. We can blast through Haze Bending. Here, we're just going to kill their Spectral Shield. Oh, they had AB3. So now they have 0 AB, so we can just try and, you know, hit them in the head a little bit more. We're pretty happy. We're still chipping them down, so, you know, we're not doing a whole bunch of damage or a whole lot of damage really fast or anything. But look at that. We've already chipped down 10 of their damage, and we're still above 30 HP. So here, we're just going to Kano. We're going to see if we can do some damage here. We'll see if we can just shoot them for 2. Probably get like an AB card out of their hand, like a blue card for AB2, like maybe a yellow if they have a yellow, but most likely it'll be a blue, or they're just going to take 2 damage. And anytime you can essentially take like, you know, 2 damage, you're pretty happy. So we'll take that. So here it is, another attack. So here we can just block with our red cards if we wanted to, because like, what are these red cards actually doing? And it's not much. So what we actually are going to do here is block with 1 red card, 1 blue card, and then just plan to Aether Spindle on our turn for a couple reasons. 1, our opponent still has a card in their hand, so throwing AB cards at them is not particularly useful because we're just going to give them free value. And 2, we know that we really just need 1 blue and this Aether Spindle to kind of do stuff on our turn. And so Aether Spindle is also just such a good card that it's going to force out a blue. And then it lets us see like what we're working with, right? So we have this tome. We're just going to bottom that because we don't really need it. We really like blue cards because blue cards lets us Kano more. And yeah, we're going to be pretty happy with that. So here, they're going to get to take a card out of our hand. Not let's block, so they're going to rip a blue card out of our hand so we can't do anything with it. Perfectly fine. We're just going to go ahead and, I think I should at least double block here with the tome, unless I'm thinking of just Swell Tidings next turn. So I'm thinking of trading 6 HP for a card out of their hand, but that doesn't seem particularly great. So what I should do, yeah, is just fully block here. Don't take any damage because we're not threatening anything. They're not threatening anything. We can get this Aether Flare out of our arsenal here finally. Again, take a blue card out of their hand from the AB, or they're just going to take 3, which is perfectly fine by me. And then we're going to be able to arsenal this tome, gain some more HP, be pretty happy with that. And boom, on all blue hand, which is pretty much what we want to see. They're going to play some cards here. Melody, that's okay. They still have cards in their hand. I think I'm just going to click the pass button here. They're going to hit me for 4, so I might just do it. But yeah, so they're going to pass here. And we're just going to go ahead and try and shoot them for just a tiny bit. This is a great spot to show you that if you just shoot like a 0 mana deal 1, they have to spend a blue card to they have to spend a blue card to block it, which doesn't feel very good. Because here, what I should do, again, you know, I'm fairly new, so you know, I'm gonna make some misplays. But here again, what we should have done is we should have Waning Mooned them to pop the Melody. Because Waning Moon would pop the Melody, or at the very least get a card out of their hand. And then our Spindle is the much bigger card. Anything that hits for more than 3 is super, super, super valuable in the AB3 matchups because they can't stop all of it. But we get kind of lucky here. We hit a Swell Tidings off the top. We're just going to be able to hit them in the head. And say, like, okay, well, you can AB3 this, but you're still going to take a little bit of chip damage. And that's really the entire game plan, is just find ways to deal 2 damage, find ways to deal, 1, 2, or 3 damage. Get them to where they're going to have hands like this, where, okay, you go into your next turn with a 3-card hand, you're going to have to pitch to play a card, so really you're only going to have 1 card, and then maybe, like, 1 mana left to not take damage, and that's totally fine by me. So here they're going to take another 2 damage. We're happy with that. Arsenal this Aether Wildfire, so now they are in a realistic lethal range if they ever have to, like, stop anything. So they're going to attack. So, like, right here, right, they have exactly 1 mana. 1 card. So they could have 3 mana at the best here, AB3. If we can get rid of this, there's a chance that they kind of just, like, lose. So we're going to try and go for that, right? So we're going to go ahead and do this. They did have the AB3, so that's no big deal. Now we can just Waning Moon, and we're just going to be able to destroy this Phantasmal. The Phantom, and be okay. Go to our turn. Don't worry, be happy. And that's the entire game plan, is basically choke them out, get to spots to where we can get cards out of their hand. So here we have, we redrew into our eye, so we're past second cycle, and we're just going to see what is up, and see when we can finally go off here. So I have CNC for 6, no big deal. We can just double block, be pretty happy. We don't really need to try and AB them here because 1, they have 2 mana floating already, which is pretty good, and 2, they have a whole ass other card. So I might as well see what's going on. I think I actually topped this potion, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, I bottomed it. Okay, so Aether Flare, not bad. We're just gonna try and get rid of a something. We're gonna try and get rid of a something here. And we can just double block with our lessons because we know that they don't really play pump spells. We're not too worried about it. So we can just say, okay, so like here, I should just say, okay, double block here, and then just go to my turn. We're just going to keep our Aether Flare alive, our Aether Wildfire alive, because that's all we really need. I think I Waning Moon here just to check them for a blue, because if they have anything less than a blue, they're going to take damage. And it was a blue, so kind of unfortunate, but we're getting into that range, though, where they can randomly die at any moment. And it makes more sense to do it that way than to go on to our turn and do absolutely nothing. Might as well check them to make sure that they have a blue. So here's a good example of them going to spending 2 cards to play cards. Okay, so they're going to pass because I think they know that they're going to be in a little bit of trouble because they're wasting 1 mana on AB. They would have had to pitch a whole nother card to actually attack, which would have been, not too great for them. So here's a great example of dealing, 1 damage to get an entire blue card out of their hand. Of course, we would have liked it on our turn, but they had a yellow. And once they pitched their yellow, that kind of told me that, like, hey, I don't think you actually have, like, another blue. And they didn't. They just had another yellow. So we're at least getting some amount of damage here. And as long as we get any, like, 1 damaging spell here, we're pretty happy. So we drew that. We were able to get rid of their card. And we're going to go to our turn. And then so same thing, we're just going to pass. We don't really need to do anything. And then we're just going to keep trying to check them, keep chipping them down, eventually get them to a point where they have to tap out because they're going to have to AB stuff on our turn, and they're going to have to do something on their turn. And then once they do both, like they can't do both of those at a healthy enough life total to make it matter. So this is fine. We can just double block this 7 and be okay. And then we're also just at like the healthiest life total, so where it doesn't matter. Because if you think about what we've seen, I think we've seen at least 4 phantasm attacks. I don't actually know how many they play. I just know that this is really the only 2 that I've seen, is they've played like 3 of these, and then 3 of the ones that take a card out of my hand and shuffle it. Or make me redraw. So after I count that they've seen 4 of these, I'm not too worried about big damages from that point on. So I'm going to let it hit me because there's not too much that they can actually do past that. I'm still at 28 life, which is a pretty crazy amount of life. We're just going to skip their entire turn, and yeah, we're just going to try and hit them in the head. The part that sucks here is that we do have so many cards that aren't super playable here. Here I probably was supposed to also get rid of the Blazing Aether, but we're going to be able to get rid of the Blazing Aether by using it on the Waning Moon. And the fact that Aether Wildfire is 4 is really nice because it gets over the AB3 and still gets rid of their Spectral Shield. So we might as well just Waning Moon, see if we can get our 2 damage in. If they're just going to let's deal 2 damage, we're happy. If not, I mean, this is where we kill them, right? So this is the exact spot that I'm talking about where people usually die, where they're going to go to their turn with 2 cards. So their options are to do literally nothing, which is not good for them, or to try and play a card and go down to like 1 card in hand for AB and then be, you know, not too happy about it. And then if it ever takes cards, so like here, they're just dead, right? So like you can't see my camera because it's behind my camera right now, because this is a VOD from my Twitch stream. So by the way, if you want to go check that out, feel free to. I stream almost every day. So here I sit up because I realize they're probably dead. My opponent goes to 1 mana, and essentially at this point they're just playing AB1 at 23 HP. Like you can just ignore every other card in play. They have AB1 with 1 mana, and that's it. So here I sit up because I realize they're probably dead. So at first I should start this off with the Kano just to see what's on top of my deck. And then we're probably just gonna like instant speed in this I call her the queen. So we drew a tome, and then now I'm just like super excited because it's like, oh, they're for sure dead. Like it doesn't actually matter what we draw here. There's no way they're not dying from 23. Even if we don't draw a, I call it the flamethrower, the Kano specialization card. Even if we don't draw that, we're going to draw some amount of cards that deal damage, and then my the queen, the wildfire, is just gonna deal enough to get us there. And like we draw the sonic boom, and then the game's just over. So yeah, we Storm Striders. We're just gonna play all fast here because we know exactly what's happening. We can even tune in for mana. We don't really need to Ragamuffin here. We can Wildfire, get our +1, make sure this deals 4 damage, and then now they're just dead because we AB. Or they only have AB1. We're just gonna be able to shoot them. Sonic Boom, all good. You know, we didn't even really need to pay the 1 for that, but it's all good because we have the mana to do everything we want to. We have the mana to both pay the 1 for this and still Waning Moon. So we're happy, and they're just like super dead. So we were able to beat an AB3 Enigma player just by doing the very fundamentals of destroy the cards that you have when I can. Don't play arcane stuff when they have extra cards in their hand. And the big goal is just to kind of keep their board small. If you can keep their board small, you will eventually get there because they just simply cannot AB on your turn. When I try and threaten them with, like, you know, a 5 damage spell, they're gonna have to AB that. If they just let me do 2 damage over and over and over again, you know, then like I'm pretty happy with that too. We didn't get to see the last card in their deck, or the last card in their arsenal, because I think they just immediately challenged us to a rematch. But I would not be surprised in the slightest if that card in their arsenal was the Ward 10 with the counters on it, because they didn't play it for the entire game. So yeah, so that's how you could beat AB3 Enigma players. It seemed pretty difficult. I played a best of 3 with this person. They beat me the first game really bad, like really bad, and then I kind of adjusted my game plan, and I beat them this game like this, where it wasn't particularly close. And then game 3, I ended up losing again. So I lose 1-2, but I actually had the win if I understood how his cards work, because this was not only my first, or one of my first sets of like playing against Enigma and Illusionist or Enigma in a bunch of row, but it was like my first sets playing against Illusionist at all. So I don't actually understand how all of their cards work, and I didn't realize the Phantasm attack that says pick a card out of their hand, put it at the bottom, your opponent draws a card, will let me draw a card always, or like it forces them to do that. So what happened was, essentially I had a turn where I popped off, they had 0 mana left, they had 0 mana, 0 AB, 0 cards, and I popped off on them. I had double flamethrower, like I essentially put them to 4 HP. At the end of my entire combo, I put them to 4 HP and then I died. But if I would have known that that card was going to draw me into a card, I forgot that that's how that card worked. I actually had a damaging spell in my arsenal, so I would have been able, it drew me into a blue, and I would have been able to do Storm Striders, play my arsenal card, deal that extra 2 arcane damage to you. Actually, it would have been more because I had a wildfire going on, but deal that extra arcane damage to you, and then that would have buffed both of my wildfires, or sorry, both of my flamethrowers. And so both of my flamethrowers would have been buffed, and I would have gotten that extra 4 damage across. So assuming that I was a good enough player to know how cards work, so like if I had to play that match again, I would win. I would have beat this AB3 player 2 times, and then I am undefeated against AB 1 and 2 so far. I lost my very first game against Majin, but I like sideboarded wrong, and I like one I sideboarded wrong, and he was on like a whole bunch of AB, and then we like replayed it. I sideboarded correctly, and that was before the Scours. With the Scours, I haven't lost. I've only lost one game with the Scours, and it was to this AB3 guy, the very first game. I'm not going to count the last game because I'm just new. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's very cool. So it's definitely not like unwinnable. It's a lot better than I thought. If anything, it's actually like fairly even. I think if they like high roll you turn 1 and you can't do anything, you probably just lose the game. But if you high roll them turn 1, or if you stop them from, you just need to stop them from ever having a board, and you're pretty happy. If you can stop them from having a board, they can't really do too much against you, even with AB3, because they don't have the resources to not let you, like if they have a ward in play and you just go, okay, deal 1 damage, and they pitch an entire blue card to stop your like, you know, Aether Dart. If you Aether Dart them and they have to pitch a whole as blue to stop it, and they go to their turn with a 3-card hand minimum, and you still have like a full grip, they're just like, they can't keep their stuff alive, and there's nothing you can do. The Scours make the matchup so much better because you can get rid of the Haze Bendings and the card that gives the Spectral Shield to +1 counter every time they attack, if you need to do that. But really, just getting rid of the Haze Bendings is really big. The other one is like, okay, but we can usually have a pretty easy time getting rid of the Spectral Shield. So yeah, moral of the story is the match is fairly decent. It's pretty good. I will have a link to the deck down in the description below if you want to try that out. It's pretty cool. Like I said, I put in, I took out 1 snapback and then the popper to put in 2 Scours, and it's pretty good. My mulliganing for this is, like I said in the intro, I already went over all this in the intro. I don't know what I'm going. Yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you like below or what matchup you want to see me cover next, and head over to my Twitch channel because I stream on there almost every single night except for Saturdays. So I enjoyed you guys. You guys are awesome. Have a great day.